Hello, stream. Oh, I need water. All right. All right. So as we usually do, we're going to record 30 seconds of silence. Here we go. All right. Okay, picking up with Chapter 13. I'm only going to get an hour in, because then I'm going to go see a friend. Hold on a sec. I'm going to go see a friend for lunch. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. And the podcast version. Nightblade, Chapter 13. Nightblade, Chapter 13. Nightblade, Chapter 13. As they traveled on the next morning, Damaris emerged from her carriage. "Lauren!" As soon as she heard the merchant's clear voice, Lauren's heart leaped into her throat. She pictured Annis's face glowing blue in the moonlight. Had it all been a ruse? Mayhap Annis had told her mother everything, and now Damaris summoned Lauren for judgment. But no. If they meant to kill her, they could have done that last night. Gregor could have ended her in an instant at any time. While Lauren still lived, she must keep hope, so she quickened her pace to join the merchant. Today, Damaris wore a gown of light green. It hung slimmer than her average garb, though that by no means rendered it plain. Elegant designs like spider webs wound up and down its length, some in gold thread and some in light pink, interlocking to create a varied palette of color. Her hair clung to the top of her head in tight braids worked into a wide bun. But the merchant's beauty no longer impressed Lauren, for she had seen what lay beneath it. Only a fool saw a bear trap wrapped in velvet and still desired to run their hand along it. As Lauren came to her, Damaris took the edge of the black cloak. She ran her fingers along its trim, an eerie smile playing on her lips. "It suits you very well. Do you enjoy it?" Lauren chose her words carefully. "I have often dreamed of a cloak just like it." That was true enough. In Lauren's dreams, Nightblade always wore a cloak of fine black cloth. "It will serve well for riding, as well as foot travel," said Damaris. "Gregor, bring my horse." "It will serve well for riding as well as foot travel," said Damaris. "Gregor, bring my horse." That took Lauren aback. What did Damaris play at? She mocked Lauren for objecting to the constable's death, and then gave her a fine cloak. She put Lauren under guard like a common criminal, and then continued her riding lessons. "My lady is too kind," said Lauren, hoping Damaris could hear the wryness in her voice. "My lady is too kind," said Lauren, hoping Damaris could hear the wryness in her voice. "My lady is too kind," said Lauren, hoping Damaris could hear the wryness in her voice, but Damaris only nodded and stepped aside. This time Lauren mounted more easily and sat loose, hands firm on the saddle horn. Gregor mounted his own steed and came forwards to take the reins from his lady. Thus we walked down the road together, as pretty a picture as one could imagine, thought Lauren. The captain, the merchant, and the forester's daughter. It sounded like the name of a song, but Lauren could not smile at the thought. Even being on horseback again could not improve her mood. Damaris had poisoned that dream. "That dagger at your belt," said Damaris. "A fine make, is it not? Gregor, you know of such things." Gregor did not bother glancing at it. "A fine make indeed, my lady." "I confess my curiosity as to how you came by it," said Damaris. "An heirloom, mayhap, passed down from nobler days of your family?" Lauren shrugged. "I see only a knife, my lady." "Oh, no," said Damaris. "No, not only that. To the wise and trained eye, that dagger holds more words than a tome. It speaks of breeding, of artistry. If I did not know better, I would say you had taken it from a corpse." She gave Lauren a sharp glance at that. "But, of course, we have seen how abhorrent you find such things." "It came from my parents," said Lauren, her voice cool, nonchalant. "Where they came by it I never knew, but when I left home it passed into my hands. I made a vow to use it honorably." She put a small bite in the last word, hoping to anger Damaris with the dig, but if the merchant noticed, she gave no sign. "But that is even more curious. How came simple foresters by such a... How came simple foresters by such a fine thing? Mayhap my guess of grave robbery falls near the mark, though it may not have been you who did the robbing." Now came Lauren's turn to feel the bite of words well chosen. Her cheeks flushed, and she found herself surprised by her anger. What did she care for insults delivered to her parents? In her 15 years she had harbored far worse thoughts about them in private. "Oh, do not take such offense," said Damaris, tossing her head. "I jest. And even if your parents acquired the dagger through less than savory means, what of it? I do not know the tale of how my forebears came by their wealth, but I doubt that book is free of darker chapters." "Is that why you act the way you do, my lady? Are you only following in the footsteps of your ancestors?" "Do any of us do any different? I will never be like my parents." "So have all children said throughout history, but if they only considered things clearly, they might not see their parents as villains at all." "But if they only considered things clearly, they might not see their parents as villains after all. Take Annis, for example. She does not approve of many things I do to ensure her safety. Did she tell you?" Lauren felt suddenly glad for years of experience lying to her parents. Not a muscle in her face twitched. "No. She seemed quite—" the microphone's starting up early today. I swear to God. "No. She seemed quite cheerful, in fact, after what happened." "No. She seemed quite cheerful, in fact, after what happened." "A farce she puts on to hide her disgust, I fear," said Damaris. "Yet I would go to any length for her future, to depths twice as dark as you can imagine." "You did it to protect her, then? Would the constable have killed a little girl if he found your cargo?" Lauren could not quite keep the bitterness from her voice. Damaris shrugged. Lauren had the urge to kick her. "They would have spared her, but safety means more than survival. True safety lies only in plenty, and sometimes not even there. Do you know how long the 9 lands have had a high king?" Lauren frowned at the unexpected change in topic. She thought hard. 2,000 of years. 1300s, said Damaris. And the kingdoms have changed mightily in that time. The men who laid the people who laid the rules of election and first drew our borders would not recognize the lands you and I walk today. 9 royal families there are now, but only one of those families existed when the High King first took his seat, and even that one cannot trace its lineage straight back to Roth. But do you know how long my family has dealt in our unique brand of goods?" Lauren did not wish to seem foolish by answering wrong, so she remained silent. 2,600 of years. We are the oldest family in the 9 lands. Vast is our wealth and extensive our power. Kings claim the right to rule, but their right has only ever come from coin. Coin that my family and others like ours control. Even as a lesser scion of my house, I may yet have the ear of anyone in the 9 lands, save for the High King herself, if I so desire. Lauren's body had grown tense. She forced herself to relax and move with the horse. What manner of people had she fallen in with? "Do you know that there has never been a merchant's war?" said Damaris, again shifting subjects as wildly as... "Do you know that there has never been a merchant's war?" "Do you know that there has never been a merchant's war?" said Damaris, again shifting subjects as swiftly as the wind. "Neither in name nor in practice. Wars are brutal, messy things, far below our station. Yet kings insist upon fighting them. We are only too happy to lend them the coin to do so. But while we do not go to war, that does not mean we have forgotten the benefit of a swift killing. What death we deal occurs in darkness and silence, the bodies quickly buried and even more quickly forgotten. Many know of it, none acknowledge it. As long as it remains well out of sight, most would sooner ignore it. Thus it has always been, and thus it will always be. Do you understand?" Lauren nodded quickly atop the horse, now more frightened than ever. "I do, my lady." "I doubt it. But one day you might." Lauren Lauren knew it would be better to still her tongue, but she could not avoid one question. "My lady, why do you tell me all this?" "Because," said Damaris, "I see precious things in your eyes, child. So much fear and anger, and yet so much wonder. You have suffered greatly, and yet you still believe the world can hold something other than suffering. Who has not felt the same? Girls such as yourself are like pure white eagles found in the woods, rarer than elves and twice as sacred. Treasures we must prefer. Girls like yourself are like pure white eagles found in the woods, rarer than elves and twice as sacred. Treasures we must preserve at all costs." The flowery words floated in Lauren's mind like a dream. She remembered Annis's words from the night before and tried to find her senses. Damaris sought to flatter her so she could be more easily deceived. She would not fall prey to such a simple scheme. And as she thought on them, Damaris's words touched off a thought in Lauren's mind. Damaris clucked her tongue. "Come, try trotting again." Gregor spurred his horse and tugged on Lauren's reins. Both beasts erupted into motion and trotted off together, Lauren clinging to the mount's neck and glancing every so often at the sword on Gregor's belt. "That is the truth of this world," she thought. "Not flowery words, but a large man with a blade at his waist. Not flowery words, but a large soldier with a blade at their waist." Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Chapter burp. Chapter. Whoa. Knock it off, stomach. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Okay. Nightblade, Chapter 14. Nightblade, Chapter 14. The final morning dawned, the day upon which they would reach the walls of Cabras. Lauren woke earlier than normal, when the sky held only a faint gray with no trace of pink. She looked up and, for once, she did not see Gregor standing nearby. The giant did sleep then. She rose and took a hesitant step away from the caravan. A guard solidified from the darkness to watch her. She could not shake a persistent feeling between excitement and apprehension. Today her journey with the caravan would end in one of three ways. Lauren would escape, the constables would take her prisoner, or someone would kill her. Kill me. The thought that she could die today did not cause her nearly as much worry as she thought it might. After witnessing 8 men murdered, death seemed common now, a trite thing, almost too often done. Gregor appeared, and the other guard vanished into the diminishing darkness. Gregor appeared, and the other guard vanished into the diminishing darkness. Soon after that, Annis emerged from her carriage. She stretched and yawned noisily in the early light, her eyes sparkling as they fell upon Lauren. "Good morn. We reach Cabras today." "So I have been told." Lauren had decided the day before that she must maintain an air of sullen silence and resentment around Annis. Gregor must not suspect the girls of plotting together. Annis, for her part, seemed to understand, for she wore the same chipper, vacant smile she had worn the day the constable's men had died. "Come," said Annis. "Let us visit the woods before we set off. You may not see them again for a while, I fear, and you have spent your life among trees." "I suppose." Lauren laid the waterskin in her travel sack and slung it over her shoulder. The sack now bulged with fresh provisions. The waterskin sloshed, full and noisy, refilled from the caravan's stores. Annis kept up her chatter as they came under the boughs, pink light now bathing her upturned face and somewhat squashed nose. After a time she turned to Gregor. "I need my privacy." He nodded slowly and gestured at Lauren. "Very well. Come with me, girl." "Not from her," said Annis. "We are maidens both. Besides, dawn rises. She must need to relieve herself." Lauren shrugged, giving Gregor a dead-eyed stare. "I suppose." Gregor backed off, looking none too pleased. Annis pretended to squat, and Lauren joined her. "Our time runs short," said Annis, her voice a low whisper. "Today we must escape." "Today we must escape. I have an idea." Annis blinked in surprise. "Truly? Tell me." "If I can distract Gregor and his men, can you acquire one of your mother's brown cloth packages?" Annis blanched. "Mayhap I can. Mayhap I can. But why? Mayhap I can. But why?" "Damaris told me that the world runs smoothly as long as no one must face the deeds of her and her kind. I plan to turn things rough." Annis shook her head. "If I am caught, I can provide ample distraction. Can you do it?" "I can." Annis did not sound pleased. "Good. Come then. Let us return, for we must act before the caravan moves on." They made their way back. In only a moment they spotted Gregor through the trees. He watched them with an expression that Lauren could not read, but he said nothing and followed silently. Once they neared the road again, Annis bid Lauren farewell and headed off on some pretense of preparing her carriage. That left Lauren and Gregor alone. Lauren increased her pace, making for the third caravan from the end. The only one she knew for certain held the packages of brown cloth. "Where are you going?" said Gregor. Without meeting his eyes, Lauren said, "Oh, nowhere of consequence. Tell me, when did you learn swordsmanship?" Gregor did not answer. "Come now, surely no harm can come from my knowing. Were you as old as me? Younger? Older?" Gregor sniffed. "Younger. I began my training as a boy of 10 summers." 10? 10? Lauren allowed shock to spread across her face. "Then you have the advantage. I greatly desire to learn how to protect myself. Could you teach me?" Gregor did not answer. Lauren spotted a guard near the wagon, standing near its head. She made for him quickly, her pace just below a run. "If I wish to catch up, I must begin immediately. Do you think you can teach me what you know today, before we reach the walls of the city?" I trained for years, said Gregor, and now Lauren could hear an undercurrent of exasperation. Meg, why are you commenting on my stream as me? Hey, Bumblebee. That's hilarious. Hey, Wordwin, what's up? "But I do not have years to waste on such an endeavor. We must speed the process." The guard noticed them at last, looking up in confusion. Without warning, Lauren sprang forwards and dragged his sword from its scabbard. The man shouted in alarm, but Lauren danced away on the balls of her feet. The sword felt much, much heavier than she had expected. "How do you manage such a thing? I can scarcely lift the blade." "Drop it," said Gregor. His hand shot to his own sword, and his face drew together in a scowl. The guard came after her, arms outstretched, but Lauren turned and ran away a few steps. "I mean no harm. I wish only to learn." She must not appear a threat. Lauren had no desire to end this day on the end of Gregor's blade. She danced down the line of wagons, waving the sword in the air in what she hoped passed for an imitation of a true fighter. "Come, teach me the intricacies of parry and thrust, the elegant dance of death." She let her feet tangle beneath her to send her crashing to the ground, though she was careful not Hey, what's up, Dread? Yes, the closet casting. She let her feet tangle beneath her and send her crashing to the ground, though she was careful not to land on the blade. The guard leaped forwards, but Lauren shot to her feet and just out of reach. It was a dance, she realized, though her partner seemed unwilling. She took a fighter's pose, one arm behind her and the sword held forwards. Now, how does one manage the thrust? She tried it, and the guard cried out as he fell back. He stumbled over his heels, barely managing to keep his footing. If you do not drop that... Oh, yay for the microphone. You know that coffee tastes horrible even when you can't stand it? I disagree completely. I love coffee, with probably too much passion. If you do not drop that weapon, said Gregor. You will take it from me? I welcome it. Come, teach me the way they taught you as a boy. All the while her voice... You will take it from me? I welcome it. Come, teach me the way they taught you as a boy. All the while her voice took on a high, strident pitch. Guards up and down the line of wagons came closer, drawn by the commotion. She saw many of them smiling, amused by her ungainly swings. Best of all, Gregor still did not draw his steel. No one could see a danger in her wild flailing. Again the guard came forwards, and again Lauren fled, drawing him farther from the wagons. Now no one stood close by. A flash of purple told her that Annis had slipped inside one of them. Come, Sir Lord Captain Commander King, teach me. You will not find a more willing student. Lauren faced off against Gregor from 10 yards away and swung the sword in 2 interlocking circles. Meet me with a riposte if you can, or whatever it is that you call it. She glanced... I forgot this scene. I totally forgot about this. I really like Lauren a lot. You know what? Honestly, Dredd, I think we got our current coffee maker at Goodwill, and we've had it for years. Yeah. She glanced over her shoulder to see if any guards approached from behind and was surprised to find Damaris. The merchant stood near her carriage at the head of the line, her eyes fixed intently on Lauren. Her face broke into a small smile. Yeah. Oh, we got ours at Target? Well, there you go. Your lady laughs at you, said Lauren. You should defend your honor. The other guard lunged again, and she spun clear at the last moment. The movement nearly made her drop the sword, but she rescued it before it fell. But at last she had chosen her words unwisely. She heard the sharp hiss of steel and turned to see Gregor's sword in his fist. Squaring her shoulders, Lauren smiled. At last! Do you mean to teach me, master? She leaped aside to avoid another attempt by the guard to recover his weapon. Her foot lashed out to entangle his, sending him crashing to the dirt. I warn you, I will not go easy on you. Gregor advanced upon her with measured, resolute steps. I have warned you. Your fool's tongue will not spare you. I have warned you. Your fool's tongue will not spare you. In his glare she saw hate and fury, the first true emotion she had seen in him since first she came to the caravan. But over his shoulder she saw another flash of purple cloth with gold brocade, this time moving away from the wagon. Lauren had done her job. She dropped the sword, and it sank point first into the ground. Very well, she said Very well, she said hastily. If you do not mean to teach me, I shall press upon you no further. Gregor did not answer, nor did he stop. Lauren scarcely had time to think, he truly means to kill me, before the air whistled with the passage of his blade. She dropped to the ground and rolled away as it cut through the air where her head had been. Gregor! That probably blasted. Gregor! Damaris's sharp voice cracked like a whip. Gregor froze as he stood above Lauren, and his eyes snapped to his lady. 3 deep breaths he took, while Lauren waited on her belly. She makes you look a fool, and you allow it to anger you? Do you act upon the whim of a girl not yet come to womanhood? I have too. Lauren held the thought, knowing that to voice it might mean death. Gregor returned his sword to its scabbard in a single fluid Gregor returned his sword to its scabbard in a single fluid motion and bowed to Damaris, his face once again an emotionless mask. "Of course not, my lady. I only acted because I thought her a threat." "This one? A threat?" Damaris scoffed. "Return to your duties, all of you." The other guards drifted away and back to their posts. Lauren heard more than a few chuckle as they went. Her eyes rose to meet Gregor's. She could not mistake the fire that burned within him. Lauren knew she could no longer consider herself safe in his presence, but with any luck, she need not worry after today. "Thank you for the lesson, master," she said softly. Gregor turned and stalked off without a word. Lauren rose and went to find Annis. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. And now the podcast version. Nightblade, Chapter 15. Nightblade, Chapter 15. They spotted the walls of Cabras as the sun hung low in the sky, bathing Lauren's right side in a soft orange glow. Nerves made her blood roil, and she hunched her shoulders a bit lower. She walked near the carriages, in plain sight of both Damaris and Annis, and under Gregor's baleful glare. As the walls loomed taller, Damaris's carriage swerved left to draw near to her. The merchant disembarked and walked beside Lauren. "You will stay safe if you remain unnoticed," she said. "They will not recognize you in your new cloak. Keep the hood drawn about your face, and we will pass through the gate without incident." "Yes, my lady, and thank you." Lauren, "Yes, my lady, and thank you." Lauren had to force earnestness into her voice. Damaris nodded and returned to her carriage. Just behind it, Gregor glanced at Lauren from horseback. She stuck her tongue out at him. 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 She let her eyes rove to the second carriage and saw Annis peeking out from the door's window. The girl looked terrified, and Lauren's own fears rose to fever pitch, but she must rely on Annis now. She had no time to turn from her course or plan a new one. They drew closer still, and then, as she scanned the wall, Lauren's heart sank into her boots. There before the gate stood Corin and Byrne. Lauren recognized them at once, the one short and broad, the other tall and slender, but no less muscular. On instinct she ducked her head, dutifully studying her feet. Her steps wandered right, as if by accident, drifting closer to Damaris's carriage. "My lady," she whispered, "they are here." Damaris looked out from her window. "Who, child?" "Who, child?" "The constables, the ones who pursued me." Damaris leaned out to look ahead. "My eyes are not what they used to be. The two before the gate?" "With the red leather pauldrons, yes." Damaris pursed her lips for a moment. "This complicates things. Still, we should have nothing to fear. Fall behind Annis's carriage and let me confer with Gregor." Lauren did as commanded, though she could almost feel Damaris's hidden intent. Annis looked out her window as Lauren walked by. "What is wrong?" "The constables," said Lauren. "Those who pursued me. They are here." "What for? I thought they wanted the wizard, not you." "They must have had little luck finding him, and have decided to guard the road against me instead." Then Mother will place you into their hands for certain." "Not if we carry out our plan. Are you ready?" "How does one ready for this?" said Annis. "But yes." The carriage door swung open, and Annis came out to walk beside Lauren. Her face seemed pale somehow under its dark coloring, and her eyes flitted about. "You look nervous," said Lauren in a murmur. "I am nervous." but you must not show it. Come, tell me of the High King's seat. Speak as you often do when we walk." Annis thought for a moment, her mouth hanging open, and then shook her head. "I cannot. I can scarcely remember what the place looks like. All my thoughts reside here, now, and I am not overjoyed at our chances." Lauren thought her heart might hammer through her chest. If Annis lost her nerve, Lauren was finished. The merchant's daughter would carry on, but Lauren would find herself in the hands of the constables. "You must not lose heart," said Lauren. "Without me, how long before you have another chance to escape? What if they—" Ugh. "What if they discover your mother in that time? They will cast your family down and throw you in chains or the stocks. Do you think your age will save you? And meanwhile, you will bear witness to betrayal and death, powerless to stop it." Without answering, Annis clutched a bulge at her side under her cloak, the bulge of a package wrapped in brown cloth. That is better, said Lauren, hoping she spoke the truth. "Come now. Courage." Just then, Gregor pulled up to walk beside them. The walls stood dangerously close now, and Lauren felt far too exposed under the eyes of Corin and Byrne. The captain spoke without looking at her. "My lady commands you to walk by her daughter's carriage. You will pose as her lady in waiting." "My lady commands you to walk by her daughter's carriage. You will pose as her lady in waiting." "But I will be in plain sight," said Lauren. "The constables will recognize me for certain." Gregor glared at her. "I bring my lady's orders, not an opportunity for debate. The carriage! Now!" Lauren swallowed hard and let Annis guide her to the carriage, but Annis did not climb aboard again, electing to walk instead. The caravan halted before the gate. There, only 30 feet away, stood the constables who had pursued Lauren for days. Behind them stood several guards, with more posted along the wall. Lauren thought of the arrow Byrne had loosed at her, and could not suppress a shudder. She peered at the constables from within her cowl, desperate not to show her face. "What?" Oh, now I have to remember Corin and probably Byrne, right? Yes. I think Corin had that deep, bubbling voice.
Our Lord a great service. If indeed we should find the wizard, we will return with a purse of his gratitude." "You chop," he said, "and if you rest again before—" "You have provided our Lord a great service. If indeed we should find the wizard, we will return with a purse of his gratitude."
Okay, so that's Corin. I don't have Byrne on my phone. What the hell? Can't I just see everything that I've uploaded, for fuck's sake, please? There we go. God, I didn't export a Byrne sample. Hold on, I have to go listen to this on the computer. Because I want you to bring me with you. Two strangers in brown and red garb.
Jack stood by them, along with Bo, another young man from the village. Jack's eyes were hooded, his brows close. The Bo spoke animatedly and gestured at the constables, thought Lauren. The constables, thought Lauren. They had to be.
prefer that the lot of you forget his words. My friend speaks with a looser tongue than he might. Our Lord would prefer that the lot of you forget his words.
My friend speaks with a looser tongue than he might.
All right, got it. Hey, it's Glindy Man.
Well met again, said Corin. What news from the road?
Precious little, said Damaris, speaking. Precious little, said Damaris, leaning out to speak from her carriage window. And in the city?
Little as well, said Corin. Tell me, where's our brother constable? We sent him north to meet you, for he thought that mayhap we had not questioned you as closely as we might.
We met him upon the road, said Damaris. He put us to the search, and when he found nothing, he rode away north. Corin and Byrne traded glances. Then Byrne said, Why would he ride north, and not south to inform us? Damaris dismissed him with a laugh. You ask me? What could I know of his aims and intent? Mayhap he never reached you, said Byrne, his voice Mayhap he never reached you, said Byrne, his voice a low growl. Or mayhap he did, and took coin to leave. Lauren felt a presence and looked up to see Gregor looming behind her. She stood within easy reach of his long arms, and she pictured them leaping out to wrap her in a death embrace. Your men must tarnish easily if you so quickly suspect bribery, said Damaris. Byrne acted as if she had not spoken. Or mayhap he lies in a cold ditch somewhere along the road, a concern to you no longer. Damaris scoffed again. Do you think I would raise my hand against the king's law? It runs in your blood, spat Byrne. Corin raised his hands and tried to calm his partner, but the taller constable would not subside. Tell us where he is, or I swear I will put you to the question. You would threaten a friend to the crown? Damaris spoke lightly, as though she asked after the constable's family. That's not light enough. You would threaten a friend to the crown? You would threaten a friend to the crown? Damaris spoke lightly, as though she asked after the constable's family.
My partner speaks hastily, my lady, said Corin. We have had no luck finding the wizard, and the search wears us both thin.
Byrne ignored him. Friend to the crown, he snapped. What have you ever done to earn that title, you leech? Why, I have brought you both a mighty gift, said Damaris. Lauren felt a shifting behind her, and she knew the moment had arrived. Annis! Annis! Now! Annis! Now! I keep clipping on the mic. Annis! Now! She cried. Nope. No, this needs to be quiet, doesn't it? Annis! Now! She cried. She leaped forwards and felt the tail end of her cloak slip through Gregor's grasping fingers. Annis drew back her arm and let fly. The package of brown cloth flew through the air. For a moment, Lauren feared it would fall short of its target, but Annis had a surprisingly strong arm. The package landed perfectly between Damaris's carriage and the constable's, bursting open upon the ground. Lauren caught a flash of glistening black as a cluster of obsidian crystals spilled across the ground. A moment's pregnant silence stretched. Then, many things happened at once. The constables cried out in unison and drew their blades, as did the men behind them. Atop the wall, The constables cried out in unison and drew their blades, as did the men behind them. Atop the wall, a guard blew a horn. The men on the ground rushed Damaris's carriage, and Gregor's guards surged forwards to meet them. The air rang with the clash of steel. Gregor screamed in fury and charged the constables, forgetting Lauren and Annis for the moment. Lauren seized Annis's hand in hers and ran for the girl's carriage. The dagger leaped into her hand before she could think to draw it, and she slashed at the leather binding the lead horse to its harness. The driver cried out in alarm, but Lauren ignored him. Clashing steel made the horse whinny in fright, and it nearly bolted. Lauren jumped back, but Annis pressed forwards. She took the harness in her hands like reins and put a hand on the horse's neck, whispering soothing words. The driver started to climb down from his perch. Lauren vaulted towards him, her dagger held forwards. She thrust it at the space between his legs, and the man yelped as he flew back to his seat. "Stay where you are. Next time I strike true." It was a lie, but the man believed her and did not move again. The horse had calmed. Lauren flung herself onto its back and leaned down to drag Annis up in front, Lauren flung herself onto its back and leaned down to drag Annis up in front, Lauren flung herself onto its back and leaned down to drag Annis up in front, where her long years of riding would help most. Annis kicked her heels into the horse's flanks. Lauren nearly pitched off the back, stopping herself only by clutching the girl's body with both hands. The horse swerved at first, heading straight for the fighting. Lauren screamed wordlessly, and Annis dragged the reins to the right. At the last moment they turned aside, passing the men who swirled in battle around Damaris's carriage. Gregor turned to stare in astonishment. They passed close enough for Lauren to lash out with her boot. His nose crunched under the sole, and he fell. They fled as fast as they could. Behind them, Lauren heard Damaris's voice erupt in rage and anguish as her daughter sped away from her forever. "We will ride around the city," said Lauren, shouting over the hoofbeats and grunting after every other word. Riding a horse hurt even more without a saddle. "Then stay on the road south and make for the next one, or mayhap we will hide in woods nearby while we think of where to go." "We cannot," said Annis. "It is too far to the next city on one horse. Mother will catch us for certain, and they say bandits roam these woods." "We cannot enter the city," said Lauren, aghast. "We must. We shall come in by another gate before word has had time to spread. Easier to hide among 1,000 people than 10,000 trees. Easier to hide among 1,000 people than 10,000 trees, or so I have heard. We will hide until we find secure passage from the city. I have brought coin." She dug into a pocket and pulled out a purse, placing it in Lauren's hand, and then dug out another and jingled it between her fingers. She glanced at Lauren over her shoulder, and an impish grin spread across her features. And that is not all. Look." "And that is not all. Look." "And that is not all. Look." She dug within her pocket again and withdrew a second package wrapped in brown cloth. She dug within her pocket again and withdrew a second package wrapped in brown cloth. She dug within her pocket again and withdrew a second package wrapped in brown cloth. Lauren's breath hissed between her teeth. "I fear you have stolen something far more dear than coin. If others value it so highly, that is to our advantage. And here I meant to be the thief. You take to it most naturally." Annis laughed, and they rode on. Soon the horse had carried them to another gate, this one on the south and west side of the city. Many people crowded this avenue, unlike the King's Road that had lain nearly empty. Annis skillfully guided the horse into line between two wagons, one loaded high with hay, the other filled with caged chickens. "Cabris has a large district where the people are poor and the constables lax in their patrols," said Annis, speaking quietly now. Cabris has a large district where the people are poor and the constables lax in their patrols, said Annis, speaking quietly now. We will find an inn there, the sort where the master does not ask too many questions. Then we will seek out some traveler or trader who means to leave the city and buy our passage with him. Whom can we trust? Anyone who hears of your mother will turn us over for the reward she will surely bring. Annis bit her lower lip. I had not thought of that, but no matter, we will think of something. They passed through the gate without incident. The guards waved them through after one look at Annis's fine dress and Lauren's black cloak. Only one guard gave a curious look at the horse's lack of saddle, but she gave no remark. Lauren realized with some surprise that the guards thought her a girl of noble birth. That felt curious. Once inside, Lauren dismounted and walked beside the horse, relieved not to feel the creature's spine slapping between her legs any longer. Though at first she glanced over her shoulder and peered doubtfully around every corner, soon her gaze drew up and around to stare at the city. Lauren knew she had visited Cabris once as a child, but only because adults had told her of it. She could remember nothing of the place. Now she could not imagine how people lived here. Buildings pressed against each other, some sharing walls. Some rose only a single level, while others had second floors that overhung the street. Lauren yelped and dodged as someone emptied a pot out a window into the street beside her. A wave of stench a moment later told her it had been a chamber pot. Is this the poor district? She said, tugging on Annis's dress. This? No, of course not. This? No, of course not. This? No, of course not. Annis looked down at Lauren from the horse, nonplussed. But then why? Lauren could not finish her thought, for strong hands seized her from behind. One gripped her left hand and the other seized her right shoulder. Greetings, Lauren of the family Nelda, hissed Burns' cruel voice. Greetings, Lauren of the family Nelda, hissed Burns' cruel voice in her ear. Lauren had no time to think. She acted upon the first thought to cross her mind. She reached out and slapped the horse's rump as hard as she could. The beast whinnied and tore off, speeding down the cobbled street and out of sight. After it! After it! Cried Byrne. Excuse me. After it! After it! No, that sounds awful. After it! Cried Byrne. Several men in leather armor pursued the horse down the street. Byrne whirled Lauren around, and she saw Corin standing there with several others. Welcome to Cabris. Welcome to Cabris. Welcome to Cabris. Corin's eyes were grim. You have much to answer for. Okay. That'll be it for me. Gonna go have birthday lunch with a friend. Not my birthday, hers. Ah, good times. Oh god, NaNoWriMo's in 2 days. I also forgot that. So we're chunking out about 3 chapters an hour. I did 13, 14, 15, roughly. Obviously, some chapters are longer, some are shorter. And if there's, let me see. So there's 25 chapters left. That'll be, oh my god, that'll be like 8 more hours. That'll be 8 or 9 more hours of recording. Good times. Well, lucky I get to work on it nonstop for the next few days. Well, thanks so much for coming and hanging out, everybody. I am off. But I should be recording again this afternoon. Good to see you. Catch you next time.